Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. It's gotten rather busy with the WTO, and today it's been particularly busy. I was moderating a session about intra-EAC trade with the Cabinet Secretary Mohammed, and I've got something with the Minister of Trade from Malaysia, who I met a few days ago, and then finally dinner with the Minister of Trade from Australia. So it's pretty busy. I'm enjoying it, actually. And last night, I'll get to that in a second actually, but let's just start with macro thoughts. Momentous moment today, the Fed and a Christmas rate strike. Obviously the market's priced it in fully now. To back off would be a debacle. I took this photograph of the Department of the Treasury in Washington, where they once printed a whole lot of money, but they've sort of throttled back now, about to raise interest rates. Home thoughts. It took a while, but I'm rather pleased now that I'm a member of the Mozambique Club. We didn't live in that part of town for a long time, and then when I applied, it took about 2 years. But it is lovely, and we had a lovely meal last night. And as I was waiting for the family to arrive, I noticed David Angel, who's the Canadian ambassador, and he said to me, "Ali Khan, I'm with the minister." And I said, "Oh." And as I scanned the people sitting there, the person I would have least expected to be the minister turned out to be the minister. And that was for no other reason than she looked much younger. Her name is Chrystia freeland, and it was a pleasure to be introduced to her. And then when I went back to look and identify the name again, I got stymied because I thought, that can't be the same person. Not many people look younger than their photographs these days. And that was very interesting as well. That took me to William Shakespeare. Yesterday I was watching a documentary by John Pilger called The World is a Stage. Very powerful. That took me to the actual origins of that phrase, which is from Shakespeare's As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school, and then the lover sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow, then a soldier full of strange oaths, and bearded like the pard, jealous in honour, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth, and then the justice in fair round belly, with a good cap on lined, with eyes severe, and beard of normal formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eyes, and sans taste, sans everything. Powerful. And the strange thing is I keep taking myself back to when I was in my teenage years or my 20s, and you just thought that was where we were going to be forever. The World is a Stage is an outstanding documentary which I watched for the first time recently, and if you have a chance, do watch it. The Houthis fired a long-range missile at a secret headquarters of the pro-government military leadership close to the strategic strait of Bab al-Mandab, killing more than 100 men of the coalition. Big hit. The launch of a Tochka missile on a military base in southwest Yemen by Al-Mandab Strait aims to shift the political scene, which the coalition had been trying to achieve for more than 8 months, which culminated in an expected ceasefire tonight before Geneva talks. The strike proves that the Houthi rebels in Yemen have improved intelligence capabilities. 2 other missiles were also launched yesterday and today on Jizan, which led the Saudis to send more troops to the borders with Yemen. My conclusions are this has been no walk in the park for the kingdom, which is something I think the Defence Minister absolutely failed to appreciate. The Defence Minister, Prince Mohammed, said in his first televised press conference since becoming Deputy Crown Prince in April that the coalition, set up this coalition, will fight this disease with military force and ideological and media tools. And then the Guardian's asking, is Saudi Arabia's anti-terrorist alliance real? Which I think is a very valid question. First to comment was the anonymous blogger on Saudi affairs, Mujtahid, always ready to shoot from the hip and always critical of the Saudi regime and of bin Salman in particular. Inevitably he is sharply negative, citing no practical arrangements, no joint forces, no military coordination, no defined objectives or methods, calling it merely a verbal understanding, which adds nothing to the intelligence and political coordination led by America. Moving on, Counterpunch is asking, he figures it's better to exterminate these maniacs in Syria now than face them in Chechnya, St. Petersburg and Moscow sometime in the future. Can you blame him? So what choice does Putin have? None. He has no choice. His back is against the wall. He has to fight. No one in Washington seems to get this. They think Putin can throw in the towel and call it quits at the first sign of getting bogged down. But he can't throw in the towel because Russia's facing an existential crisis. If he loses, then Russia's going to wind up on the same scrap heap as Afghanistan, Iraq or Libya. You can bet on it. So the only thing he can do is win, period. Victory isn't an option, it's a necessity. Let me put up a photograph of John Kerry meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday, both titanic individuals in their own way. Admire them both, actually. A conspiracy of fear-mongers. Over the weekend, CNN breathlessly reported as breaking news. It breathlessly reports everything as breaking news. A new poll indicating that people are increasingly frightened about terrorism. The accompanying web story stated terrorism has eclipsed the economy as voters' top pick for the biggest issue facing America. That took me back to one of my favorite writers, Paul Virilio, The Administration of Fear. We are living under the administration of fear. Fear has become an environment, an everyday landscape. There was a time when wars, famines and epidemics were localized and limited by a certain time frame. Today it is the world itself that is limited, saturated and manipulated. The world itself that seizes us and confines us with a stressful claustrophobia, stock market crises, undifferentiated terrorism, lightning pandemics, professional suicides. Fear has become the world we live in. On that note, let me put up a photograph of Saeed Farouk and Tashfeen Malik. The day they arrived in Chicago on the 27th of July 2014, this story is extremely murky, and I don't think it is as it has been presented. Aylan Kurdi images were seen by 20 million people in 12 hours. This is the sort of flash speed of social media. And again, let me leave you with Virilio, who says images contaminate us like viruses. And, it's a very sad story. International markets, Citibank is expecting Fed to pull end 2016 median dots down to 1.125% and end 2017 to 2.125% and reduce long-term Fed rate closer to 3 from current 3.5. I don't think they'll be able to push it much further lower than that, and I think that would be under. I think I'd expect more to come out of the US rate-wise. Holga US 2-year government bond yields jumped to 0.984%, highest since 2010. Currency markets have been all over the place of late. Let's start off with the Euro 109.27, dollar index 98.08 when I checked last, Japanese yen 122.02, Swissy 0.9901, pound 150.28, so the dollar getting stronger, Aussie, which has been trying to bounce but is back below 72 at 0.7184, India rupee 66.915, South Korean won 1178.05, Rial 390.79, Egyptian pound 782.92, and the rand 14.92.48. Remember, the rand had gone above 16, and I think the strengthening in the rand is being informed by the view that finally a limit has been put to Zuma's ability to act. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. Let's have a look. But I'm not of the view that the dollar is going to fall back. I'm of the view that there's another round, another rally coming. The question is when. Euro dollar, not of the view that we're going back to parity again. I think that although we're down, this is probably a buying opportunity. 109.26. Commodity markets, gold, let me put up a 6-month chart. That was last trading at 10.65. I was looking for triple digits from the beginning of the year. I think we'll get it in the first quarter. Holger asking how low can it go? According to Citibank, Brent oil might need to fall to $30 a barrel to clear the markets. I'll put up the image of Brent oil, and then another 1 month of WTI remains under pressure and expected to remain there for now. Let's move on to Africa. As the fog of battle lifts over Bujumbura, the yarn spun by the government is swiftly unraveling. This is foreign policy. Not only were some of the victims bound and shot, execution style, no gun battles took place in the neighborhood where most of the bodies turned up. Multiple witnesses said both claims contradict the government line that soldiers inflicted additional losses on a retreating rebel force. According to residents, security services conducted door-to-door searches, stole cash and cell phones, and dragged away dozens of young men suspected of working with the rebels, many of whom were later found with bullets in their heads. The issue here is twofold, as I think regional leaders very reluctant to call the ICC after they've been on this chest-thumping, anti-ICC thing. But this could spill out of control. I mean, the numbers we heard on Friday were over 100, and then I had somebody come in here to interview me, and he said he'd just been there, and he said the numbers being unreported on the basis of 10 to 1. Just put that in just consider that. So very, very difficult situation, and something's got to be done. South Sudan Central Bank adopted the parallel market rate of 18.50 to the dollar as of midnight on Tuesday from a previous fixed rate of 2.96. Massive devaluation, and this is something that Nigeria is trying to push back against. It can't, and it won't, and eventually it's going to have to give as well. Naira. Interesting piece in The Economist. If you build it, will they come? For most urban Africans, owning anything other than a slum home is out of reach, they're saying. With around 40% of its people living in cities, sub-Saharan Africa is the world's least urbanized region, but it is changing fast. UN predicts that its urban inhabitants will more than treble to 1.1 billion by 2050. Most of that growth, and that will account for 56% of the region's population. By 2030, Dar es Salaam, Johannesburg, Luanda will have joined Kinshasa and Lagos as megacities, each with more than 10 million people. Most of the growth, they're saying, will be in slums, which are currently doubling in size every 15 years. Economists at the MIT found that in Kibera, Nairobi slum, residents devoted almost a third of their non-food expenditures to rent. More than 90% of them are tenants. In Kenya's countryside, by contrast, 90% of households pay no rent at all, typically because they built their own shelter on informally owned land. Saying that sub-Saharan Africa has the smallest mortgage market in the world. Just 3.7% of adults in urban areas had any type of home loan in 2011, according to the World Bank. So a big opportunity, but something that we need to get more planning, because otherwise it's just going to continue the way it is across most cities that I visit. Inflation in Mozambique surged to 6.3% in November, from as low as 1.3% in May. Currency has tanked 36% against the dollar this year, the worst after Zambia's kwacha. It's been a very tough time. They're going to have to do something with those tuna bombs as well. Bankers show South African President Zuma his limits as weekend lobbying ends chaos. Rand plummeted to a record. Banking executives, including those at Goldman Sachs and Barclays, decided they had to do something. In their strongest intervention to reverse a government decision, they went to meet ANC officials to tell them Zuma's decision on Deck 9 to replace Finance Minister Nene with David Van Rooyen, a former small-town mayor with little experience, was a disaster. well, wasn't it? Saying that partly informed by the business lobbying, partly moving of their own accord, senior ANC officials confronted Zuma, and I think Zuma realised that it was a step too far. I wrote about this before I heard that he turned around on Saturday morning, and but I think the reasons I had in that piece, acrimonious exit of Nene hits Africa's economy, remain valid. Pravin Gordon, let me put up his photograph, has been brought back, obviously. Bloomberg, Craig Thompson says Nene's firing just highlighted how reckless Zuma is with the country's finances. Totally reckless. Van Rooyen, in response to that, saw fit to say no deals were signed while I was finance chief. And the cynics among us might think that's exactly what's probably happened in that short period. South African all shares down 2.7% this year, edged to 0.72% higher yesterday. Dollar rand firmly below 15. Let me put up a 6-month chart for you to have a look at. I like this photograph of Camps Bay in Cape Town, South Africa. It was about the best beaches in Africa. Egyptian pound at 782.98. Egyptian EGX 30 down 28.07% this year. And it's been a tough year for African equity markets. Nigerian all share at a fresh 3-year low, down 22.24% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange down 12.93% year to date. Base is rescheduling its Kwale debt. This was on the cards. Prices are low. They needed to reschedule. Told shareholders that it has rescheduled its $215 million outstanding debt for the Kwale Mineral Sands project in Kenya. Flagged the refinancing of its debt, saying that the current commodity market make the repayment of the project debt facilities challenging. At least they've made that step. That was an important one. Kenya shilling, last time I looked, 102.24. It's really been resilient and, as I called it once, Teflon. Safaricom war with Bitcoin dealer sparks CBK warning. The CBK reiterates that Bitcoin and similar products are not legal tender, nor are they regulated in Kenya. The public should therefore desist from transacting in Bitcoin and similar products. Through the BitPesa platform, users can convert Bitcoin into Kenya shillings and use it to make retail payments or remittances via M-Pesa. Bitcoin, a virtual currency that was founded in 2009 by Australian techie Satoshi Nakamoto, has grown exponentially. Virtual currencies are traded in exchange platforms that tend to be unregulated all over the world, and consumers may therefore lose their money without having any avenue for legal redress in the event these exchanges collapse or close business. That's Dr. Njoroge. Nairobi all share firm 0.12% yesterday. NSE 20 rallied 0.49% yesterday. Wall Street Journal magazine has a lovely article about Lamu. Been there for a while. The voyage to Lamu, an exotic island off the east coast of Africa, unfolds like an opium dream. After flying to Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, took a propeller plane to a tiny airstrip set among lush mangroves 2 degrees below the equator. There too, Swahili boatman Captain Hassan Titus escorted me to a nearby dhow, a traditional Arab sailing vessel crafted from wood and favoured in myth by the likes of Sinbad the Sailor. As the distinctive triangular sail filled with a gentle breeze, the mysterious buildings of the island's main township rose like a mirage on the horizon, a jumble of ancient whitewashed mansions, mosques, palm trees, bougainvillea, all presided over by the stone turrets of an Omani fortress. For a little nostalgia, I dropped by the Sunset Happy Hour at the beachfront of Pony Hotel. That was a marvellous place. The owner died. And you'd see the Milky Way above you, and he'd serve you these drinks. I can't remember what they were called, but they were lethal. And it was just fabulous. Mick Jagger, he was known to be there, Jerry Hall, Yehudi Menuhin. And it really is quite a tale. Extraordinary place. Let me put up a photograph of a villa on the far end of Shella with sweeping views of the harbour so you get an idea. We actually stayed in the house that Princess Caroline owned. It cost €1,000 a night. About 15 people could fit in there. Most extraordinary chef. Really was brilliant. And I'll put up another photograph of the setting sun in Lamu that I took many years ago. Yesterday, what did we see in the stock market? Safaricom up 5.46% in December. Nation Media, look at this, up 43.38% over 4 weeks and surged another 7.77% yesterday. Uchumi, that's up about 9-10% in 2 sessions. KCB was the most actively traded share, closed unchanged at 40, but there is huge buy-side interest below 40. That's what we saw good volume yesterday as well with equity. Finally, Trans-Century slumped a further 5.48% to close at another fresh all-time low of 690. It's been a torrid time for Trans-Century at the stock exchange. Once again, thank you for stopping by.